Okay, so just think about yesterday for a second. You almost definitely used your smartphone, right? Maybe check the weather.
Oh, absolutely. Or paid a bill online, maybe scrolled through some news.
Exactly. These tools, our computers, the internet, they're just, well, they're part of everything we do now. So useful.
They really are. And we're so used to them, we hardly ever pause to think about, the unspoken rules, the guidelines for how we should be using them.
And that's exactly what we're digging into today. We've looked at some really interesting material covering ethics and social issues in what people call ICT, information and communication technology.
Right.
It really brings up this core question. Okay, we know how to use the tech, but what are the values, the principles that should guide us when we're online or using these devices?
It's crucial knowledge, really, for navigating the modern world effectively, but also safely. It helps you be a more aware, more informed digital user.
So that's our mission for this deep dive. Pull out the most important ideas from this material about being responsible online. Cut through some of the complexity and maybe highlight a few things that might surprise you.
Sounds good. Where should we start? Maybe with the basics. What are ethics in this ICT context?
Good idea. So ethics, as the sources explain, basically comes down to moral principles, figuring out right from wrong.
Yeah, the word itself, ethics, comes from the Greek ethos, character, values, beliefs.
Exactly. So ethics in ICT is applying those ideas of good conduct to how we use technology, our phones, computers, the internet, all of it.
And it's just so critical now because technology is everywhere. And with that comes, potential for misuse, doesn't it?
Definitely. Things can go wrong, sometimes really wrong, like the whole issue of misinformation spreading like wildfire online.
That's a big one. And the sources give other examples too. Stolen photos shared without permission, a huge privacy violation.
Or fake news causing real harm, hacking into systems, even plagiarism, students just copying stuff online.
These aren't hypotheticals anymore, are they? They happen all the time. And that's precisely why we need this ethical framework. It's all about using these powerful tools fairly, respectfully, and, legally.
Okay, so that sets the stage for why ICT ethics matter. Let's narrow it down a bit. What about computer ethics specifically? Is that different?
It's related, but more focused. Computer ethics, according to the material, is really about the moral rules specifically for using computers properly.
Right.
What's interesting is that back when computers first emerged, these rules weren't really there. It was kind of uncharted territory.
A bit like the early internet, maybe. A free-for-all.
Sort of, yeah. People weren't always sure what was okay. Things like looking at someone else's files or copying software without paying, things we now see as clearly unethical, weren't always so defined.
So how did that change? How did we start getting some rules of the road for computer use?
Well, as computers became more common, the need for guidelines just became obvious. So these computer ethics principles developed. The main ideas: using computers to help, not harm; respecting privacy; being honest; not abusing the power technology gives you.
Seems pretty fundamental. Did the sources get more specific? Like actual rules?
They did. The material lays out what it calls important computer ethics commandments. They're quite direct.
Okay, like what?
Well, number 1, thou shalt not use a computer to harm other people. Simple as sending a nasty message, right?
Makes sense.
Another, thou shalt not contribute to false information. So basically, don't spread rumors online. Then there's not snooping in other people's files, not deleting their data, not stealing information or hacking. Pretty clear stuff.
Yeah, those sound like things we should all know, but it's good to see them spelled out. Any others?
Yep. Also, not interfering with other people's computer work. Don't mess with their stuff.
Right.
Respecting software rights, so don't use or copy paid software unless you have a license. And finally, don't use someone else's computer or their internet without asking permission first.
Okay, a solid set of guidelines for using computers. And the material links this to being a good digital citizen.
Exactly. Following these computer ethics is a big part of that. Which kind of leads us nicely into cyber ethics. How does that fit in?
Okay, so if computer ethics is the device, cyber ethics sounds like it's more about our behavior online, on the internet.
That's a great way to think about it, yeah. Cyber ethics is about how we act on the internet safely, respectfully, responsibly. The source actually compares it to real-life manners.
Oh, I like that analogy.
Yeah, just like we try to be polite face-to-face, we need those same principles online.
Now, the material also made a point about distinguishing cyber ethics from cyber law. Why is that distinction important?
Yes, that's key. Cyber ethics is about what we should do online. based on values. It's about making good choices, even if there's no specific law against something. Cyber law, though, that's about what you must do. The actual legal rules. Break those, and there can be real legal trouble.
So ethics is like our internal compass, and law is the external rule book with penalties. Got it. What are some practical examples of cyber ethics, the do's and don'ts?
The source had a really good list. For the do's, use the internet for learning, for homework. But don't just copy-paste without giving credit. That's plagiarism.
Right.
Do learn about media, but don't download pirated movies or music. Do chat politely online, but don't talk to strangers inappropriately or pretend to be someone you're not.
That seems important, especially for younger users.
Definitely. Also, do use respectful language online. The don't is pretty obvious. Don't use foul language. Don't bully others. And finally, do protect your personal info. Don't share passwords or your home address online.
Very practical stuff. The source also mentions some key focus areas for cyber ethics.
It did. Privacy is a huge one, yours and others. Then there's property respecting copyrights, software licenses, digital ownership, security, obviously protecting your devices and data, accuracy, being truthful online, accessibility, making sure tech is usable for everyone, and then the tricky areas of censorship and filtering online content.
Wow. Okay, so cyber ethics covers a lot of ground for how we should behave in that whole online space. Let's broaden that again to digital citizenship. Sounds like it pulls all this together.
You got it. Digital citizenship is the big picture. It means being a responsible user of technology, period. How you behave online, how you interact through technology.
And the point is, basically anyone using a phone or the internet today is a digital citizen, right?
Pretty much, yeah. If you're using digital tools, you're part of this digital society. You're a digital citizen.
So what makes a good digital citizen? What are the core parts?
The source breaks it down into several elements. First, digital access, making sure everyone has fair access to tech. Then digital commerce, buying and selling online safely and legally. Digital communication, interacting responsibly online. Digital literacy, knowing how to use tech properly and safely. Digital security, protecting yourself, your data, your devices.
That's crucial.
Absolutely. Then, digital health, thinking about your physical and mental well-being with all this tech use. And finally, digital law, knowing and following the actual rules around technology.
That's really comprehensive. It covers so much more than just online manners. Now, something related that I think people often overlook is their digital footprint. What's that about?
The digital footprint. It's basically the trail you leave online. Every post, every comment, every search, every account you create, that all adds up.
Like footprints in the sand, but maybe more permanent.
Exactly. That's the key thing the source emphasizes. It's surprisingly persistent. Things can stay online for a long time, even if you hit delete.
Yikes. Okay, so how do we manage this footprint? Any tips?
Yeah, the source gives some good advice. First, maybe go back and delete old accounts you don't use anymore, clean things up a bit. Second, and this is huge, think before you post. Seriously, consider the long-term impact. Protect your privacy. Don't overshare personal stuff.
Right.
And always think, who might see this? Parents, teachers, a future boss. It helps frame what's appropriate.
So it's like managing your real-world reputation, but maybe even more critical because it's recorded and searchable.
That's a perfect way to put it. A good footprint can help you, but a bad one, well, it can cause problems later on. Now, unfortunately, we also need to talk about a darker side of online interaction. Cyberbullying.
Yeah, this is such a serious issue. How does the source define it?
It defines cyberbullying simply as bullying that happens using digital technology, phones, social media, games, you name it.
And what does it look like?
It can be lots of things. Sending mean messages, posting embarrassing photos or videos without permission, spreading lies, ganging up on someone, excluding them online deliberately.
It sounds awful.
It is. And the source really stresses the impact it can seriously hurt someone's feelings, their self-esteem, their mental health.
Where does this stuff usually happen?
Pretty much anywhere people interact online. Social media apps like Instagram or TikTok, messaging apps like WhatsApp, online games, email, even setting up fake profiles to harass someone.
The source listed some specific examples too, didn't it?
Yes, things like making fun of someone publicly, spreading false stories or doctored pictures, sending threats, those fake profiles we mentioned, or sharing private photos or videos to humiliate someone.
It's just nasty stuff.
Yeah.
So what should someone do if they're experiencing this or if they see it happening?
The advice is really clear and important. First step, tell a trusted adult, parent, teacher, counselor, someone you trust. Don't keep it to yourself.
Okay.
Also, report the bullying to the platform, Facebook, the game company, whoever. Block the person doing the bullying. And crucially, try not to respond to the hateful messages. Engaging often just makes it worse.
Really vital advice there. Okay, let's shift gears slightly to cyber law. We touched on it earlier, but how does it fit in with ethics and why do we need it?
Right. So cyber law, as we said, is a set of actual laws from governments that control technology and internet use. The goal is to protect users and punish criminals.
So while ethics is the should, law is the must.
Exactly. Ethics guides our choices, but law sets the enforceable boundaries. And we need it because, well, the internet, amazing as it is, also opens doors for crime and harm.
Like what kinds of things does cyber law cover?
The source lists key topics. Hacking, definitely. Stealing digital property, music, software, ideas, credit card fraud online, cyberbullying when it crosses the line into illegal harassment or threats, phishing scams trying to steal your info, identity theft, and very importantly, protecting children online from exploitation.
So without these laws, it would be chaos online.
Pretty much. Cyber law helps create a safer space by holding people accountable for illegal actions online. It's the necessary legal backbone.
Now, speaking of governments and rules, the source included an interesting example, Nepal's ICT policy from 2015. Why look at a specific country's policy?
Well, it gives us a real-world example of how a nation tries to strategically manage tech use. It shows that governments are thinking about this, making plans to improve digital services, expand access, and guide how technology is used for national benefit.
What prompted Nepal to create this policy back in 2015?
Primarily, the rapid growth in people using phones, computers, and the internet there. The government saw the potential of ICT for things like education, healthcare, farming, business, and realized they needed a plan to make the most of it responsibly.
Makes sense. What were some of their big goals with that policy?
They were pretty ambitious. They wanted to improve Nepal's global ranking in ICT development, aimed for 75% digital literacy across the population.
Wow.
Yeah, and get internet access to 90% of people. Plus, boost the ICT sector's contribution to the national economy, aiming for at least 7.5%, and support key areas like education, health, agriculture, tourism, e-commerce, R&D, and telecoms with ICT.
Those are major targets.
Yeah.
So what was the overall point? Why was this policy seen as important for Nepal?
The source points to several things: bringing more government services online, making government more transparent and efficient, driving economic growth through tech, and tying back to our main theme, encouraging safe and legal use of technology among citizens. It's a concrete case of planning for a digital future.
It really highlights how central this all is now, right down to national strategies. So as we wrap up here, we've covered a lot from basic ethics and ICT,
To computer ethics, cyber ethics, being a good digital citizen,
managing your digital footprint, dealing with the serious issue of cyberbullying.
understanding cyber law, and even looking at a national policy example.
Yeah, quite a journey. And I think the big takeaway, the main message from all this material is pretty clear, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's that in our world today, which is just soaked in digital technology, understanding and practicing ethical, responsible, legal tech use isn't optional anymore. It's essential for everyone.
It really moves you, the listener, beyond just being someone who uses tech. Knowing about computer ethics, cyber safety, the laws, it empowers you to be a truly informed, responsible digital citizen, to navigate everything with more confidence, more integrity.
Which leads us to a final thought for you to maybe chew on. How can you take these principles we've talked about and actively apply them in your own daily online life? Your posts, your interactions, your choices.
And maybe think bigger too.
Yeah.
How does our collective behavior online, following or ignoring these guidelines, actually shape the future of this digital society we're all building together?
Definitely something worth reflecting on your own digital habits, your responsibilities in light of all this.